Welcome to Wellbeing Wednesdays with Harvinder Narula on BW Wellbeing World. They say silence is golden, but then every human being needs some form of expression. Who can explain this better than someone who's an introvert and yet has found his form of expression in his silence? In this episode today, our guest is Samir Soni, a multifaceted actor who weaves tales not only through his captivating performances on screen, but also within the pages of profound literature. Known for his dynamic presence in Bollywood, Samir is more than just a thespian. He's a storyteller who explores the nuanced art of silence. Unveiling the mystique of the silver screen and the pages of his book, My Experiments with Silence, The Diary of an Introvert, Samir delves into the transformative power of silence in both the real and the real world. Join us as he shares his insights into cinematic magic and introspective revelations that unfold when the words are spoken in the eloquent language of silence. So, welcome, Samir, to BW Wellbeing World. Thank you so much for taking out time. Uh, Samir, before I begin, you were born in Delhi and you studied in Delhi University, and then you went to California studying business economics, and then you started working as an investment banker. How did films happen in your life?
The seed was sown when I was about 8 or 9 years old, when I discovered acting. So in my personal journey, I was a fairly introverted, shy chap. And when I actually was introduced to acting or theater workshops, I found that as, therapeutic. Because when you're acting and being somebody else, you're not scared of being judged. In real life, you will be judged of how you say, what you say and stuff. But when you're playing quote unquote a character, you can express any emotion and you will not be judged, it'll be the character. So that's a good outlet for an individual. In fact, that's very good for therapy as well, to express its catharsis for your own emotions, to express through your character. Whether you're feeling sorrow, you can be crying, whatever. So that's how I discovered acting at a very young age. And I was very active in theater. So this was foregone conclusion that I would be an actor one day. But I come from a typical Punjabi family, so where academics is extremely important, and the thought is, "Arey, pehle padhai likhai kar lo," acting hoti rahegi. That's a typical thing. So then, one thing led to another, and then before I knew, I was working on the Wall Street, and I was a financial analyst for Merrill Lynch. And I was working, I spent a year in New York, then back in LA. And when I was in New York, I was living right next to the World Trade Center. And that's where the office was. And I was truly miserable. I mean, I can say, because for whatever reason, it wasn't making me happy. It was making everyone around me happy. My parents were happy and everyone happy. And I was thinking, look, and that's probably one of the highest paying job on Wall Street out of, graduation. And I said, if you have all this, and if you're still not happy, then there is a major problem, because this is only going to get severe. So thankfully, I think, everything happens for a good reason. Had I got another job or somewhere else where I was relatively okay, but this is hardcore finance. So, I got an apartment facing the Statue of Liberty, working at World Trade Center, and I'm miserable. So I asked myself, okay, now we need to figure this out. So I said, okay, what do you want to do? So I think probably asked myself the most important question, of my life, that I want to do. This is the question I asked: that what do you want to do, and what do you see your life as? And my answer was that I want to do something that I wouldn't mind doing, even if I wasn't paid for it. Okay, number one. Number two, it is something that excites me enough to keep me up at night. And third, hopefully that was more of a personal thing, marry someone who you can, share your ups and downs with. And that's what life was and still is. And then I just quit my job and I wrote I told my dad, I didn't post that letter, but I did write a letter to him saying that, look, I don't want to be 50 years old with, house in the suburbs with 2 children and car, and telling them how their father could have been a good actor and a successful actor, but just didn't have enough guts to do so. And I said, I don't want that. So, because I believe that if you don't do something, there can be a regret, thinking, what if I had? But if you do something and you fail, it might hurt, but you get over it.
Right.
So that was the turning point, and I just quit and came back to Bombay. And came, first I went to Delhi, then I came to Bombay. Didn't know a soul, not a soul in my family who's involved anything with films. And that was my first visit to Bombay also. So yeah, that's the long and short of it.
Awesome. But you know what, Samir, you spent so many years doing something which you later realized was not your calling. And then you moved to pursue what you had always dreamt of. Do you think this time that you spent studying something which is not your career today was wasted? Or do you think it is helping you today to pursue your dreams little different and better than anyone else? And second is, most of us dabble with, it's not just you. I mean, most of us dabble with the question that, what is it that I'm passionate about? And we are not many times equipped to understand our passions early on. Is there some realization, something that you have learned through your journey to understand, okay, you know what, this is what you need to be asking yourself to know what you are passionate about so that you can make the right choices?
Okay, first question, in terms of has my experience in economics or Wall Street, I worked for Paramount Pictures, has that been a waste of time or has been a help? I think every experience, depending what you make of it, adds value. It's simple as that. The worst experience also of your life also adds value. At least you know what not to do. Right? So I never look at that it's a waste. I am today what I am, which is a combination of all the experiences I've had. And had I had some other experience, I wouldn't be the person I am today. Because I have seen the world, the corporate world, I have seen, so at least I know what I'm not missing. Because had I not had that experience, I probably would be wondering, oh, maybe would have been better off. I was good in studies. I could have got a corporate job. I'd be second guessing myself. But now I know. If someone comes and he's from Harvard University, that's okay. It's not something like, ooh, something special has happened. Because I've been there. My colleagues are often there. I went to a good university. So yeah, so I can't say that. I think I am, because it's the holistic experience you have. You've seen the outside world. So you have a bird's view, I think. You're not like, I'm glad wasn't born in a film family, because then you can't see beyond it. Here I have an experience of real life, real people and real stuff. So that, yeah, so it helped. So that, I don't know if I answer that question. And secondly, your passion. I somehow always feel that we know what our passion is. Deep down, we know the answers, but it is the conditioning around you that dissuades you from it. Whatever could be. Conditioning plays such an important role. I'm glad you asked this question, because I personally feel that we are still following the wrong template. We are following the templates that our parents followed, which was be successful, because they thought that if you have, a good education, a good job, good salary, a good house, family life, and everything's going to be okay. And then you'll be happy. So we have a whole generation of people who are trained to think like that. We can't think beyond that. And then invariably what happens is you are 50, 60, and they say, man, this is not making me happy. So we are trained to be quote unquote successful, not even trained to know what makes you happy. That's what we need to include in our schools. What does it mean to be happy? If you and I asked anyone, what is success? And drop of a hat, you'll get an answer. You ask them, what is happiness? They wouldn't know. They will think and say, yeah, but this, but that. So I think that's where my book also comes in, that the layers of conditioning around you. Your personality is pretty much formed by the time you're 7, 8, 9, 10. Your value system, whether good or bad, it is what it is. And as you go on, there's more experiences come in, which condition your value system even more. By the time you've grown up, what you're seeing is nothing close to the original thing. It's like wearing 10 layers of glasses, and you have to kind of somehow pierce that and figure out what is it that you like, what is it that you value. And that's a process that nobody kind of encourages, So so it's not an easy question, but it's a very important question.
Yeah.
It's not even a question I think parents teach their children, because they are just passing on what they know best.
Absolutely.
And what's happened is we have moved as a society to a society which is just trying to make ends meet, survive, to a society which is okay on survival and saying, now what? I've got all these things, fine. I can get more of that, but then what?
Right.
I mean, earlier generation, if you were supposed to talk to them about depression and anxiety, insecurity, they'll be like, what are you talking about? Because your mind is busy making sure you make enough money to pay the rent, to buy a house, for education for your children. It's only when all that is taken care of, you think of, wait a minute, there is more. So I think it's a very, very important question. For me, luckily, it was answered at the age of 8 or 9, and I've never thought of anything else. And that's all I dreamt of. And luckily, it was for the right reason. So I think the question you need to ask is, what do you want to do? If you were, say, have an abstract thing, human beings at the end of the day, we are visiting or on this planet for X amount of time, right? You're whatever 60, 70, 80 years you have to live. You're born with certain circumstances and resources, wherever you're born, and the family. And genetically, you're born with certain kind of predispositions.
Right.
Now you have 70, 80 years. What do you want to do? And how do you want to pass those 70, 80 years is totally up to you. That's for you to decide. What do you want to do? You want to sit, whatever. It's your call, and no one is wrong. I mean, to me, it's saying that, hey, if you want to become an alcoholic and drink all day, all night, and that makes you happy, and you're comfortable with that, okay, do it. Chances are you will be paying a price for it. So you have to discover what makes you happy. So I don't know if that answers your question, but.
Oh, absolutely. Samir, what I hear is a very important aspect because like you said that, everybody has a different answer to what success means to them. And similarly, what happiness would mean to them. So, one big thing that, what I hear is that you should learn from every situation in your life. So for example, if you have gone through a failure, you would know what success means to you. If you've been sad at times, you would know what happiness means to you. Unfortunately, because everybody has a different answer to what happiness means to them or success means to them, they're trying to fit the other person into their definition of happiness rather than helping them discover what happiness would mean to them or could mean to them. So,
absolutely. It's like if you ask a blind man, what does he need? He wants eyes.
Yeah.
If you go a person who's handicapped, he probably wants limbs. You go and give the guy who has limbs more limbs, and he says, what am I going to do with this?
Right.
It makes no sense.
Right.
So it is absolutely subjective. Nothing is, there is a sort of a conversation that goes on nowadays between the materialistic and the spiritual part of it. And somehow spirituality is deemed to be more profound. I disagree with that. I think they have their own roles to play. We cannot have one size that fits all.
Right.
So yeah, I totally agree with you.
And I think spirituality also means different to different people. And we recently did a conference which was my pursuit to find out that we are talking of Maslow's need hierarchy, that everybody looks at the basic shelter, food, etc. Then their work, then relationships, fame, and then they say that now I'm looking at self-actualization. And that is when we see people in their 50s and 60s moving towards volunteering and doing something that is to do with more of the spiritual world. But if they have not found happiness in every part of whatever they have done in the past so many years, then why not bring spirituality to the bottom of the pyramid and make it a part of the whole journey?
Yeah, you don't have to live that entire experience of 30, 40 years to finally ask yourself and come back to it, because people kind of make it as that this is the only way.
Right.
But this is the only way we know so far.
Absolutely.
If we were, like you're saying, if you were to bring out, say, self-analysis and questioning yourself, because the big question is, what do you want to do and why?
Yeah.
And
Why?
why is the big important thing.
Correct.
I want to be an actor. Do I want to be an actor because I want to be rich and famous? Then there are other ways of being rich and famous also. There has to be a better way. Why only acting? Okay, it makes me this. But why that? You have to keep peeling the layers until you come to a real reason.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more on that.
Yeah. So, Samir, you wrote this book, and it is to do with uh, being introvert. It talks about silence. Do you consider yourself to be an introvert?
Oh, yes, 1000%.
And did you ever consider yourself to be less than those who are extroverts?
I think it's just not me. I think it goes for a lot of people. If you don't think of yourself less, but you definitely think that maybe you lack something, okay? So you're in that sense, you're not less than them, but that you lack a quality you need to be. Well, I guess in that sense, one could loosely say less. One doesn't think like, I mean, I personally don't think that less is more. But yeah, I mean, you feel there's something lacking in you, or there's something wrong with you. Because you can see a whole bunch of people together having a great time, and you're not able to feel that way or relate to that. And we live in an extroverted world. So I had, like I said, what is shyness? We talk about shyness. I mean, if you have a child and he goes out, plays, talks to his friends and stuff, that's fine. If you have a child who sits in a corner for some time or reads a book, after a while the parents will get concerned. इससे कुछ problem है क्या हो ये बोलता नहीं है मिलता नहीं है. I mean, like my parents used to send me to the neighbor's house at any excuse so that I would interact with them more. So yeah, I mean, by just observation and how your parents treat you, which comes at a very young age, because we, like I said, extroverted is normal, introverted there's a problem.
Or is perceived to be a problem?
Yes, that's what I'm saying. I mean, quote unquote, for the society per se.
Right. And Samir, everyone, I have not come across anyone, whether extrovert or an introvert person, who does not have the need to be able to express oneself, and you are in a profession where expression uh, is a form of, what is the message that you're trying to give to someone, and you have to get into the character, as you mentioned earlier. How do you balance the use of uh, silence as a form of expression to convey your emotions effectively?
See, what happens with practicing silence, which is also stillness in a way, is that you learn to declutter. And it's sort of kind of being in the eye of the storm. You learn that where everything is crazy around you and you can just be centered. That's essentially what we're trying to do. And whether you're an actor or a businessman or whatever, to have that quality that in which you're not in a reactive stage, that helps anywhere. Now, for example, if I'm acting and I have to do a scene in which my mother or father is passing away, there will be about 50 people around me, right? I have to learn to block that and just go within, right? So in a way, being an introvert and being able to practice silence, I think being able to practice silence or stillness is an asset, regardless what profession you are in. It's got nothing to do with nothing. All it is being in touch with who you are and you're not being reactive.
And Samir, one is, what prompted you to become an author, and what motivated you or inspired you to choose the theme of silence, and does it have any linkage, or does it tie back to your experiences in the entertainment industry?
I've been fond of writing since I was a child. Not really. Never saw myself, or still don't see myself as a writer, because I think there's a difference between enjoying writing and being a professional writer. They're two different things. So I always liked penning down thoughts, even when I was 12 years old, 13 years old. Let's write something and whatever. It was my escape. And so that came very naturally to me. And I also realized that I felt better after that. So there's a phase I went through, which was sort of like a dark phase for me, or there was a little struggle in life. And that's when I decided to kind of look into what this whole thing, because I was reading a lot of books. And everyone was talking about silence, whether you want to have Deepak Chopra's and whoever. And even the spiritual books, they talk about being still and being, in touch with yourself. So I started practicing that. So I would just kind of put a clock in front of me and just stare at it for 15 minutes and said, no, you will not do anything. And I started doing that on a regular basis. 15 minutes became half an hour. And I was recording what I was feeling. I was journaling every thought. And this was before I was married, actually. So I had the luxury. If you have family and stuff, you can't be, okay, I'm not going to talk to anyone. That's more difficult. So I was just writing whatever I was feeling and just following my thoughts, but not reacting on my thoughts. Which is the difference. Now, people say you have a gazillion thoughts in your mind all the time.
Right.
But when you try to be silent and not react on your thought, and it could be as simple as, I have a dying urge to call up my friend and tell him something. I will do that only when the urge goes away.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So essentially, you're saying your brain is a part of you. It can't run your life.
Right. Right.
And in my industry and business, the volatility is so much, the extremities is so much, and the stability is so less.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you don't have like a stable job at the end of the month. You meet the same people, the same thing, get your check and move on. Here, you can touch the sky one day and 6 months later, you'll be like, hello, what happened? And we have enough examples of that. So I've always been wary of that. And so that also naturally inclines me, look, the ups and downs are going to happen. Mm-hmm. It's about projecting. For example, I mean, I had just done one job. Had I pursued that longer, I would have probably spent another 5 years, 7 years, and then said, no. So luckily for me, I'm pretty perceptive and I'm saying, okay, this is leading me to a path that I want to go. Likewise, in acting also, you'll have your ups and downs. And then you say, oh, wait a minute, if I buy into the bouquets, I'll have to buy into brickbats also. So you have to learn to isolate yourself from that. Mm-hmm. And I was writing. And then I was approached by Om Publishing and they wanted me to write memoirs. And this was during COVID time. And I wasn't too keen because I thought enough actors were doing that. And I had this collection of diary writings, which I knew was of some importance because they were raw. Mm-hmm. And I still believe it's probably one of the most unique books out there in the market right now, because most of the books are written, even if they're like a diary or memoirs or a biography, they're written in hindsight. You thinking how you felt 20 years back. Right. Not many people will have something which they actually wrote 20 years back.
Right. So those are more curated rather than the real stuff.
Correct. So I had this set of things in which there was prose and poetry, which I shared with them. So they got a sense of the way I write. And we kind of wove the book around it because I felt so passionately and still do about the message that I was trying to get across. And that's how it all came about.
And Samir, just yesterday I was at an event and there was a spiritual, leader or a spiritual master who was, talking about that when they say that you have to do meditation or you need to meditate, you don't need to do anything, because at any point in time you are doing something or the other. Even when you are trying to stop your thoughts, you're trying to do something, right? So it is your ability to stop doing anything, which in his opinion was meditation. To me, silence is also one aspect of stop doing, like you said, stop reacting to whatever your thoughts are also. The other aspect of silence is introvert's journey, right? Can you elaborate on how the silence plays a role in a lifespan of somebody who's an introvert? And also, I mean, when you're talking of silence, which silence are you speaking of?
Right. Let's start with the first thing you talk about, meditation. Now, I think meditation is the word which has been used so loosely that it's kind of lost its meaning. And also, if it's an experience, then what you experience is truly only you know what you're experiencing. I might say I'm also meditating, but my experience might be totally different. So how do we say what is meditation? Like I've been to meditation classes and I remember talking about this and they say, okay, now shut your eyes, relax your body, feel the energy here and feel this. And all my thoughts were saying is shut up. You're stopping me from feeling all these things because the sound's always coming in.
Right.
So to me, my experience was, which I understand now could be meditative, I guess, in to my ability, to my understanding, is when you find gaps in thoughts in which you are in a thoughtless state. And then what happens is your brain, the job of your brain, we have to understand, is only to protect you. That's all. Your brain can protect you, but it can never make you happy. So that's why at any given time in your life, it's always projecting what might happen or what has happened. Because it's trying to make sense of the environment in which you are. Right? That's why whenever you're there about a million thoughts are constantly racing through, but that's what a mind does. I mean, it's like, your tongue will taste, your nose will smell, and your mind will think about what can possibly go wrong. That's the instinctive thing, survival mode. So when you kind of go silent and learn not to react to your thoughts, after a while, your brain kind of gives away. It's more like if I don't use my arm for some time, after a while, it kind of becomes like that, right? You're not using it. You're not, initially it'll be like, my God, what am I doing? What am I doing? I need to free myself. After a while, you keep it for a long time, it'll be okay. So when your mind is racing and you're not reacting to it, the number of thoughts you're having at any given moment in your brain slow down. At least that was my experience again. And then I would get these little glimpses in which I wasn't thinking anything. I wasn't trying anything. I just wasn't reacting to my thoughts. And in those fraction of moments, the clarity you get, it's like having a long nap. Some great saints and other people probably can experience that all day long. We guys, even if we can everyone gets that. It's not true, we don't get it. Get these flashes and moments in a day in which everything's just right. What we say, being in the zone, in which there is no conflict. You're just there, and it's okay to be there. How I achieved that and that worked is by cutting through all the barriers, piercing through, questioning myself, and not reacting to my thought. That was my way. Now, I cannot generalize as much as I would like to, and I'm tempted to. I can't say that is what the other person should do.
Mm-hmm.
So, and being an introvert, it comes naturally because introverts are naturally inward looking.
Right.
But I think this is something which will help an extrovert also, because you can if you are an extrovert living in an extroverted world which values extroverted stuff, somewhere along the line you need to take a pause and say, oh, wait a minute, do I really want this? So that's my definition of what it means to meditate. I mean, for some people, they do other things and they say that we reach a meditative state. Now, there's no way I can know what state they've reached and how they're defining it. We can use very abstract words for it, but in the end, it's an experience. I mean, to me, it was this complete clarity, lack of conflict, and it was just, you were just there for those moments, and you were supercharged for going on with life. So I don't know if I answered your question, but yeah, that's so. There are a lot of spiritual gurus and stuff who kind of say this is the way. And I have a huge problem with that. I have a massive problem. And the reason, I'll give you an example. This is something I've been thinking of and maybe will be part of my next book. You've heard the story of the 6-7 blind men trying to, touching an elephant and trying to describe what an elephant is, right? Someone gets his tail, says, oh, it's like a rope. Someone gets, his legs and says it's like a pillar. Right. And if we say they all are wrong, right? To me, life is like that. To me, they all are right. Okay. Now you have one person who sees an elephant as a rope, right? And he's going to try to climb the rope. Because we all are trying to get on top of it where we can get a good view of everything. We're all struggling in our own ways.
Right.
But that person sees life as a rope. If I encounter legs and my struggle is to deal with the legs, so no matter what that person who's climbing the tail can say, it will not help me, because he will use his experience, say, oh yeah, just put your arm around like this and do this. I would be like, what are you talking about? Likewise, somebody else is going to touch the body of the elephant. So the situations are totally different. Our perceptions are totally different, number one. And one big thing is genetically we're different. We have different strengths and weaknesses. So there's no way I can tell anyone, like, perfect example. I mean, everybody, I'm sure you also agree with that, slow and steady wins the race, right? And we all say that. If you told a rabbit to be slow and steady, he will not survive a single day in the jungle.
Got it. Yeah.
That's a foolish thing to say. That's a very foolish thing to say to a rabbit, because God gave him speed because he cannot protect himself.
Yes.
Right? So you have to figure out who you are and what you need to make this thing work.
Right.
I can't be telling somebody else who's got totally different things and sees the world in a different way. So yeah, so I have little problems with, I mean, in a definition and a path.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we all have our own journeys, and all we can do is encourage people to go into their own journey.
Mm-hmm.
Like my book is kind of dedicated that I'm sharing my journey with you. Hopefully it helps you or encourages you to discover your own journey and your own path.
Got it. So, Samir, if I can use the word, you're a performer, being an actor. Are introverts appreciated in the film industry? Do you think being an introvert maybe helps the person be more authentic in their performance than extroverts, or is it the other way around, that extroverts are able to get along more, help promote the films better? What is your view on it?
I think it's true for the industry as it is true for any business, because the films are also film business. As an introvert, you can be intuitive, you can be sensitive, hence you can be more creative. But creativity by itself is not going to sell, right? So that's a compromise. So that's a price you pay. So I can do fantastic work, but if nobody gets to see that, if I don't have the ability to make noise about my own work, I will suffer. Likewise, it goes in any other business. I mean, you can be really good at what you do, but it's like the squeaky wheels always get the oil. Even in corporate world, the one who kind of makes most noise about what he's doing and what he's done, or how he interacts with other people, the people skills, which is an extremely important quality. People say, they look down upon that. No, we live in a society, in a world in which that is a very important skill.
Yeah.
I mean, just because I can't do it, I can't look down upon it. So, but I understand that, okay, that is my shortcoming. So I work on my strength, knowing this is my shortcoming, and hopefully I can compensate with exceptional work. So this is true. I think in this industry, to be good, you need to be extremely sensitive, because it's a creative field. To survive, you have to be really thick-skinned, because you'll be judged. So there is a dichotomy. That's why it's a mixed bag. It is what it is.
And Samir, in your book, it's like you said, it is your own. If I could, say it's a journal that is there, which you've chosen to bring it in front of the world. Sharing your own experiences. Can you share some highlights that could probably demonstrate the transformative power of silence in your life? How has your life been impacted with this power of silence that you have uncovered for yourself?
To me, I think the biggest transformation is you stop trying to be something you're not. Because the moment you are more at peace with yourself, you're not trying to be someone. Because we live in that kind of society and everybody's trying to be something. And once you've done that, and then it's a lot of realizations come. I mean, being in silence or being in touch with yourself, knowing who you are. I mean, it just gives you a different perspective. I mean, I could, whoever the richest man in the world might be, I would respect him for what he's done. But does that make him any greater than who I am? No. That is my viewpoint, which I don't think would have ever happened had I not practiced that. I would probably be in awe, even if I can meet the most successful actor or whoever. You respect what they have achieved, but
Right.
you also say, well, I'm no, that doesn't make you superior.
Right.
So it is that clarity of who you are and what you are, the sense of security that gives you, that you
Mhm.
can go to any environment and openly say, hey, man, like, earlier if someone called me to a party or something or a social gathering, this is a small, trivial example.
Mhm.
I don't want to go, I'll make some excuse, right?
Right.
Or I don't force myself to go. Now I'll say, man, I don't step out of my house after 9 o'clock. And it gives you a sense of um, completeness and sense of security, that you're not trying to be something and you're not ashamed of who you are. You wear that as a badge.
Right. You're
Because
being authentic.
huh?
You're being authentic.
You're being authentic and taking pride in that. That's
Yes.
the most important thing. I mean,
Right.
for example, I always encourage in mental health and people seeking, whether it's psychology, psychologists, psychiatrists, whatever. And I remember, like, I was going to see a counselor. And my friend was like, where are you going? I said, I'm going to meet my counselor. So what happened? Something wrong? I said, no, nothing wrong. I felt the need to discuss with an objective professional that what the situation I was in. And so this kind of tells you what the society we live in. It's okay to have 3 4 drinks at the end of the day, but God forbid if you were to go and seek help.
Yeah.
And there is nothing wrong. I mean, like, introversion again is, I can only, because I've been there.
Mhm.
That I know how it feels
Right.
not to be part, to feel an outsider, no matter where you are.
Right.
Right. So that, it just gives you tremendous confidence and pride in yourself.
Right. And Samir, what I've seen is that when we, for example, if you have a problem, then when we talk about our problem to someone, we also hear our own words. And many times we find our solutions while we are speaking about what we are going through. Similarly, what you have done is you are introspected your own journal and whatever you have, kind of journaled through your life, right? Now, on hindsight, when you go back and read your journal again, what are some of the learnings that you have been able to identify for yourself that have helped you or could help someone else as well in their professional journey being an introvert?
See, as far as me going back, I think I've been through the journey. So it's a part of me. I have already learned what I had to learn or know what's what. And I might make the same mistake again. I'm no great human being that whatever. But the only thing is I'm aware of it. I'm aware of how I can react or how I can't react. And normally, and in journaling, what I realized was when I was writing, invariably, when you lifted the pen off the paper, it led to some kind of conclusion because you're going through with the thoughts and whatever, writing, and there's this dialogue going on, and you just keep writing, and in the end, you come to a place, yeah, okay, saying, look, in the end, it's fear. Because you can go like a discussion of when I was leaving US to come back to India, I can think, oh yeah, but then if I go to India, I might not get a job. What if I don't make it as an actor? But then I have fallback of my degree in finance. But then can I come back? A billion questions. But one word to answer all that is fear.
Right.
Right? We can get lost in that maze.
Yes.
Right? And you can't cut through that. It's when you start doing it, okay, so the bottom line is fear. Can you deal with it?
Mm.
So that's how it helped me, and that's how it's part of me. Okay. For others, is just sharing that, and that's what I hope the book does, is to let a lot of people know that you're not alone in the journey.
Mm.
That's a big thing. I hate when people say 10 steps to this and 5 steps to this. It's very annoying for a person who's struggling and telling, oh, do 5 steps and you'll be fine. It's far more, I think, effective if you were to be compassionate and empathetic towards that person, saying, man, I know it's tough. I've been there. Look, this is what happened with me. Hang in there. So it is that one hand you're reaching out and saying, look, I understand. And that takes you a long way. You can go through a lot of things. It's sort of catharsis that happens. It's like when you're sad or depressed, you listen to sad music. It does something for you.
Mm-hmm.
A peppy music is not going to take the sadness away.
Right.
So to me, that's what the book does, and that's what it did for me, and I wanted to share. And I think, and I'm hoping it does that for the book. And I get a lot of actually mails and stuff that people are saying, "Oh, this is like reading my own diary."
Mhm.
Then someone said, "Oh, it's so relatable."
So it's serving the purpose of what you said, that, letting people know that, they're not alone. They're, it's okay to be there, you know. But tell me one thing, I mean, extroverts by nature are expressive. So, when they're dealing with something, they are the ones who will go back, call up their friend and direct, मेरे साथ ये हो गया, उसने ये कर दिया. So they are able to vent out, you know. Introverts, I'm assuming, would not go pick up a phone or call up someone and say that, मेरे साथ ये चल रहा है. They'll be like you said, they're more inward looking, they'll introspect. Keeping that to be the truth, do you think that introverts are more prone to depression and getting into their own silo and cutting themselves off from the world?
I don't think they're more prone to depression because they're more inward looking. They might be prone to depression simply because they might be more sensitive. I mean, it is actually, in scientifically speaking, an extrovert is wired very differently from an introvert in terms of neurologically. The pathways are different. The pathways of an introvert are far deeper. Hence, they're able to go into one subject to great depths, which means they can also discover a lot of things and also feel a lot of pain. An extrovert can probably manage 20 different things, but at a superficial level. But that's the great thing. So I don't think it's because of inward looking that you're prone for depression. I think just because you're a sensitive person, things around you are going to affect you more. And we will never really know that because also a lot of extroverts will distract themselves or probably will not allow themselves to get so deeply involved in something. So they're less likely. For example, an extrovert probably will say, oh, let's forget about it. So they will have a tendency to sweep a lot of stuff under the carpet. That doesn't mean, that's like a ticking time bomb, right? It's suddenly you find a lot of people who are very gregarious and stuff like that. They might not be able to articulate their problems, but deep down what they're thinking, they could be going through a depression and not even know that. Because we associate depression with quiet and this and that. But I don't think depression, I think it crosses the boundaries of introversion and extroversion. Yes, introverts, simply because they are more sensitive, thin skin, might affect them. But no, in fact, it's very dangerous for the extroverts because they're sweeping so much stuff under the carpet that when it comes out in the fore, it might be something really big.
Right.
Because we all are human, we all feel things, we all deal with disappointment. So at the time being, you can call up your friend. At the time being, you can take an extra drink and you'll be okay, and you'll be okay, and you'll be okay. Sooner or later, it does catch up. So, I mean, I'm not a psychologist. I don't have the data to say introverts are more prone. But my understanding is that if you are a sensitive person and you live in the society, in the world, things will affect you far more than a person who's not as sensitive.
And also maybe, because the connotation, my assumption is that when I hear someone talking about being an introvert, it's in the sense that, they're very different from everyone else. It's not normal. I mean, that's what it is, spoken as if. And I think that's the problem is it creates a self-limiting belief in the mind of an introvert that, listen, I'll be facing more problems because I don't speak to anyone else. I think that's one thing that they need to get over with and say that, I am who I am and I'm just the way it is.
And also, I think it's important to understand, just to be fair to extroverts, any kind of stereotyping is not good, right? I mean, we're talking about, if you take an extreme introvert to an extreme extrovert, they are the ends of the same spectrum.
Correct.
I mean, so what does introversion mean? Stereotypically, you have the image of introvert, a quiet guy sitting in a corner with a book and brooding, right?
Right.
Extrovert, you'll have a guy who's, life of the party and who's dancing and and laughing, right? But it's not like extroverts don't need my time or me time. They need that silence also. They're not mad people who are just like, yeah. And Introverts also like people.
Right.
But they will communicate where they feel safe. In fact, a classic thing is, take an introvert in a group of people he's really comfortable, he or she is comfortable with, he probably will be the most talkative guy. Right? So
Right.
this whole cliche that extrovert hai, to usko, he doesn't need to spend time on his own. Introvert hai, to he will not go out. Nonsense. The only difference is that where is the source of your energy, motivation coming from? For example, and this is what I say to a lot of people is, if you take an introvert and extrovert to a social environment, a party or whatever, they both will have or might have a very good time. An extrovert's going to come home charged up for tomorrow. An introvert's going to come home exhausted because his energy comes from within.
Right.
So for most introverts, as the day begins and the more they interact, energy depletes. And for an extrovert, their energy gets more charged up. They're in a group. They love that. The whole thing, who gets this kind of energy while being in a group. So it's these are the finest things, really. But this whole cliche that extroverts will not keep quiet. They'll say, you are such a talkative person today, you're very quiet. Right? Extroverts are also normal human beings. They need that.
Correct.
It's the amount you need probably would vary. So yeah.
And Samir, your book suggests experiments with silence. You know, what were some of the surprising insights you discovered while experimenting? Uh, something that you were not expecting, but they just happened, and you were like, pleasantly surprised. And how did these insights influence your life from that day onwards?
Oh God. I don't know about pleasant or not. I mean, it was just amazing that when I was journaling and I was thinking and how one thought led to another, led to another, led to another, would lead me invariably, this is what I found, to my childhood. Not that I had a terrible childhood, but it would lead somewhere. And that's what made me realize and made a lot of sense that how a person's childhood or upbringing determines his personality now. Right? I mean, and this works in almost any individual you take, any sphere you take. Okay, your formative years will determine the kind of person you will be, and more often than not, it cannot be changed. Right? Whatever the mold is set. By the time you're 8 or 10, you figured a way of doing things. You will be just a variation of that going forward. I think that was a big thing. I mean, yeah, one can go on about this. The discovery is just incredible. I mean, it made me think, what is success? It's something as simple as that. I mean, so there's so much of clarity. For example, a lot of people talk about success, and this thing is, I mean, when we talk about, say, musicians, since I'm in the art field, who's the greatest musician or a popular star? And they'll say, oh, Michael Jackson, oh, whatever, whatever. And my typical question is, would you want to be in his place? And answer is no. So what are we doing, really? I mean, everyone would admire and look up, whether if not him, Elvis or whoever. But you wouldn't want to trade places with him. But that's what we are selling. We are selling greatness. Right? So these kind of finer things, you can only realize when you block off all the thing that's being thrown at you: compass, best, more money, more this, more that. It's only when you block those things off and you look inwards and actually introspect and say, well, what is this? Why is one thing good and not the other thing not so good? So yeah, so to me it was a great thing. And I mean, childhood, yes, that's one thing I realized, that I mean, the sense of how many of us do things for a sense of validation. When you're looking and doing something, you realize you're doing it because people around you would feel good about it or respect you.
Right.
What is the need for that? Chances are the person who wasn't given enough respect as a child is the one who seeks it the most and will work the hardest for that and then justify. We don't know what we know actually Steve Jobs, what he was probably thinking, or whoever. I mean, it looks all hunky-dory. When he was dying, he was kind of saying, yeah, I wish I'd done this, I wish I'd done that. So somewhere along what you're trying to do as an individual, is you're trying to compensate lack of one thing by the excess of the other.
Right.
So these kind of insights kind of happen. And it's strange. I mean, I honestly, I never knew I was an introvert. I was sort of, I'm like shy. And I was like, I don't know. I mean, there's something wrong with me. I mean, I would say, like, for example, I'd gone to see an IPL match and Sachin was batting and everybody like shouting. And I was thinking, I love the match, but I can hardly see Sachin. I can't see where the ball is being hit. I'd rather be at home with a pizza or something, watch it on TV and watch the action replay.
Right.
So I was like, is there something wrong with me? Everybody's having a great time. What's wrong with me? Then you realize, well, they're enjoying this whole unison of everybody being together.
Right.
And you might not enjoy it as much. So you get a lot of insights. I think spending time on your own, you get a lot of insights, but even if you're an extrovert for that matter,
Yep.
it's just self-discovery.
Absolutely. And while listening to what you just said, one thing that I realize is that we keep saying that you must know your why. You should know why you should do what you want to do. I think going back and introspecting your own life, and for that matter, anyone at any point in their life, if they were to just go and introspect why did they do what they did, maybe subconsciously, would help them identify what matters to them and what prompts them to respond or react to situations.
You don't even have to, honestly, you don't even have to go into your past,
Right.
because I'm not a much believer of that.
Mhm.
I don't like looking back, because I believe whatever decision you've taken in your life at that point in time was the best decision you could have taken, given the
Absolutely.
information you were given, the data you had, because that's what
Yes.
one does. So it's really no point with this hindsight looking back. I
Mhm.
mean, that just to me is a waste of energy. So like they say that you can learn your lessons,
Mhm.
right? So there's a popular thing saying that there is no losing. You either win or you learn, right?
Absolutely.
But
Absolutely.
you need to question your motivation. Okay, I want this. Why?
Mhm.
Why is it? Okay, now I have this car. Why do I want that car? Is it because I want that car? Is it because I think people will like me more, people will respect me more, or my family will respect me more? I'm not judging that. But
Mhm.
at least know why you're doing it.
Correct. Correct.
I mean, like I said, I'm not against any of these things. I don't want to give any spiritual bullshit in the sense, this is great. At least know why.
Absolutely.
I mean, instead of being autopilot and, so yeah.
Yeah. Samir, before I let you go, I have one question because I watched your TED talk, you know, and when I was watching your TED talk, you had said or used a comment saying corruption of dreams. Yeah. Can you explain what you mean when you say corruption of dreams?
Yeah. This came about in terms of, in the context of, I asked a lot of people that what was their earliest dream as a child? And it goes with me too. I think the answers I got, doctor, astronaut, da, 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 da. And the one thing that occurred to me, we all wanted to be someone, do something, but we never thought of being the best at that. It was just being able to do that. I want to act. I want to play cricket, right? Then later on, this society can't tell you that if you're going to do this, make sure you're the best. So somewhere along the line, the joy of doing something is immediately replaced by succeeding in that thing. So me, that is the corruption of a dream. Your dream is pure. If you took it the very base level, is to do this. But the moment there is a sense of excelling, I personally feel excelling in any field is overhyped, because unless you say, put a context to what price is being paid, it's a overhyped phenomena. I mean, a simple thing is that, if I said to anyone that, a man who said that by the time he's 40, he'll be a billionaire, and he became a billionaire, would you call him a success? Everybody is going to say yes. But if I added the information that he had 2 divorces, lost his family, all these things, now you'll probably say, wait a minute. The price he paid was this. Is it worth it? So to me, unfortunately, and I use that phrase because I find a lot of youngsters parents putting that pressure on them to excelling, to come first, or whatever. They say, "Ha karo," and do your best, which is to me the worst thing to say. People say, "Do your best," because you can't even quantify that, and which also says that what you're doing is not your best. So this whole concept, I think, has to be replaced by enjoy. Are you having a good time? Are you happy? That's the important thing. It's not about, oh, you're doing best. Because we like to say, first, I am, some people actually say that, I don't tell my children to come first. Have you given your best? How does it matter? Why this judgmental things keep happening? Because then you're making that person think, oh, I can do more, or am I doing less? The fun is gone. So yeah, that's when I meant that a dream is related to that sense of joy and happiness, which is replaced by excelling in that thing, which takes the joy out of it. So that's, to me, is corruption of a dream.
Right. So, thank you so much for your time. This has been such a beautiful conversation because, the one thing that stayed with me during the whole conversation, what you said initially was that, it was, it was not what you did in your initial phase of your career, which is post-academics, was not making you happy. It was just making everyone around happy. That sentence has kind of stayed with me all through this conversation. And what you also said when you were talking about that when you reflected back on your journey by looking at your journal or your diary, was a reflection of what happened in the childhood. And to me, I'm relating it to when you said that we as elders templatize the life for the young ones. And these templates get formed for us and get fixated in our heads. And that is the mold that we need to break to free the next generation from that.
The earlier generation has made a giant leap of faith in which they defined success a certain way, number one. And number two, made an assumption, which no one can say was true, but they made the assumption for everyone that if you are successful, quote unquote, you will be happy.
Correct.
Because there is no connection.
Right. Because they found their happiness there.
No, the thing is because they thought they will find.
Yes.
See, what happens is whatever we lack, we try to ensure the children's get. They don't lack that. So if you're coming from a family who's probably dealt with poverty, they will instill, so they will think all their life that if I had more money or more respect, I'd be happy. Right. So what do they tell their child? Get a good job, get a good company. This is what's important. Because they felt that if they had done it and they couldn't, they don't want their children to suffer. So from their side, they're doing a very honorable thing. Mm-hmm. Not, in any way. They do the best they could and an extremely honorable thing. They're trying to pass on their knowledge to the next generation. But times have changed. It is like somebody said, the world you grew up in is dead. It doesn't exist anymore. So don't pass on that to the generation. So yeah, I mean.
And also, the big takeaway for, I think, every introvert is that you're just different. I mean, you're just a different kind, but you're as normal as an extrovert. It's just that, quote unquote, taking from what you said, that you find the source of your energy somewhere else. And the last thing, which is a big takeaway for me from this conversation, Samir, is that don't focus on trying to buy greatness. Go seek what is fulfilling for you. And with that, I would like to thank you for bringing these gems out from this conversation. And also, I really feel that people can learn from somebody else's journey. And your book is a reflection of your own journey and what you felt. And each one can derive different lessons from it in their own manner. So, so people should just read this to find their own inspiration and live more fulfilling and happier life.
Yeah, thank you so much for giving me this platform to share, and because I think the direction in which the society is going right now, to me, is that we will be paying a heavy price for that. I
Yeah.
think there has to be a course correction in what is desirable. I think the template's going to fail. It already is. I mean, we know for a fact that excess of money doesn't buy you happiness. Excess of fame doesn't buy you happiness, because you know people who have had all these things. But yet, because we are programmed to think like that, all our decisions are made like that. You want this company because this is going to give you this, and this will give you this progress, this can give you this promotion. That's why this job is good. You're programmed. Every decision you're taking is pre-programmed for making more money, without knowing whether that's going to make you happy. So thank you so much for getting my word across. And yeah, thank you very much. My pleasure.
Thank you, Samir.